Have you ever felt a cold touch in the middle of the night? Heard whispers when no one was there? Today, we will share 3 true real-life ghost sex stories that are so scary they almost killed the people who lived them. These stories mix fear and desire in ways you can't imagine. Stay with us till the end, if you dare, because what you're about to hear will haunt your dreams.
My name is Tatiana, and I'm going to tell you a story that still sends shivers down my spine. This is not just any ghost story, it's about my life, my love, and the horror that followed. It all began in 2007. I had gone back to my hometown in Haiti and met this wonderful guy named Gene. Gene was everything I had ever dreamed of. He looked like a black Freddie Prinze Jr. and had a charm that swept me off my feet. We fell deeply in love, even though he lived in Haiti and I lived in Miami. We managed a long-distance relationship, dreaming about the day we would get married when I turned 23. But life has a cruel way of changing plans. One of Gene's friends was jealous of his success. Gene always had money and nice clothes, and this friend couldn't stand it. He turned to voodoo, casting a curse on Gene. A year later, in 2010, after the horrible earthquake, Gene died. I was shattered. My heart broke into a million pieces. I couldn't imagine living without him. 2 days after his death, while I was still in Haiti, I began to feel something strange. It started with goosebumps and a chill in the air. I could feel Gene's presence. I knew it was him. I felt my blood rush, my skin tingled, and I could feel him touch me. It wasn't scary, it was comforting. I would talk to him even though he couldn't talk back. The first night after his funeral, I felt him more strongly. It was as if he was rubbing me down. His touch felt like electricity, heavy and warm. When the lights were off, I could see something like black smoke moving towards me, and I knew it was Gene. 3 weeks later, I returned to Miami, and Gene followed me. He wasn't with me all the time like in Haiti, but he would come to me every night. I'd feel him rub my breasts, my butt, everywhere. It was strange but also familiar. One night, while I was lying face down, I felt something thrusting inside me. We actually had sex, and it felt real. I could feel his tongue kissing me, and it was as if he was really there. The experience was both terrifying and pleasurable. I wasn't sure if I should be scared or happy. But questions started to haunt me. Would he get stronger? Would I be able to see him as a real person again? These thoughts scared me, but the feeling of having him close, even as a ghost, kept me wanting more. One night, I decided to see if I could communicate with him better. I lay in bed, waiting for him. The room was cold, and the air felt heavy. Suddenly, I felt his presence stronger than ever before. His touch was more forceful, more intense. It was like electricity coursing through my body. I could feel his hands on me, and it felt so real. He started rubbing me again, and this time it felt like he was everywhere. His touch sent waves of pleasure and fear through me. As the weeks passed, the encounters became more intense. He would come to me every night, touching me, making love to me. The feeling was indescribable. It was as if I was with a real person, but there was always that lingering fear. What if he got angry? What if he hurt me? But I couldn't stop. The connection we had, even in death, was too strong. One night, something changed. I felt his presence as usual, but this time it was different. There was an anger, a force that I hadn't felt before. He grabbed me harder, his touch more aggressive. I tried to push him away, but it was useless. His grip tightened, and I could feel him inside me, but this time it wasn't just pleasure, it was pain. I screamed, but no sound came out. My body was paralyzed with fear. When it was over, I lay there, trembling. The room felt colder than ever, and I could sense that something had shifted. Jean's presence wasn't just comforting anymore, it was threatening. I was terrified of what would happen next, but I couldn't let go of him. He was all I had left of the love we once shared. The next few nights were a blur of fear and pleasure. Every touch, every kiss was a mix of love and terror. I started to lose sleep, afraid of what each night would bring. I would see shadows moving in the corners of my room, hear whispers that sent chills down my spine. The line between reality and the supernatural was blurring, and I didn't know how to escape it. Then, one night, I woke up to find myself unable to move. Jean's presence was stronger than ever. I could feel his breath on my neck, his hands roaming my body. It was as if he was trying to possess me completely. The fear was overwhelming, but so was the pleasure. My body betrayed me, responding to his touch even as my mind screamed for it to stop. The climax came when I felt his grip tighten around my throat. I couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. The room spun around me, and I felt myself slipping away. In that moment, I realized that I was in real danger. Jean's love had turned into something dark, something that could destroy me. With a final surge of strength, I managed to break free. I ran out of my room, gasping for air. The cold air outside felt like a lifeline. I knew I had to do something to protect myself, but I couldn't bear the thought of losing Jean again. I sought help from a priest, hoping that he could give me some answers. He listened to my story with a grave expression and told me that what I was experiencing was dangerous. He gave me holy water and taught me prayers to ward off spirits. That night, I followed his instructions, hoping that it would keep Jean at bay. The nights that followed were filled with a different kind of terror. I could still feel Jean's presence, but it was weaker, angrier. The shadows in my room seemed to taunt me, and the whispers turned into screams. But I held on, repeating the prayers, using the holy water. Slowly, the encounters lessened. Jean's presence faded, and the cold, heavy air in my room lifted. I could sleep again, but the fear never really left. I knew that Jean was still out there, somewhere, watching, waiting. To this day, I can still feel his touch sometimes, in the dead of night when I'm alone. The love I once felt has turned into a haunting memory, a constant reminder of the thin line between love and horror. This is my story, the haunting of Tatiana, a love beyond death that turned into a nightmare. Liking this true tales of terror? Then have a look into it, guys. Most of you just watched the video and then just left it. Please also make sure to hit the subscribe button, or else maybe you'll also face this.
I'm going to tell you about something that changed my life forever. It's a story about Ella, a spirit that haunted me and turned my world upside down. This isn't just a ghost story, it's my experience, and it's as real as it gets. It all started one late night while I was bored and surfing the web. I was looking for random stuff, and out of curiosity, I typed in how to summon a sexual ghost. I know it sounds crazy, but I was intrigued. I found stories of people who had experiences with spirits known as succubi, and it got me really interested. As I read through the stories, I started feeling a strange tingling sensation down my back. It was slow, almost like a soft touch. My hand, the one on the mouse, began to feel numb, like it was being lightly stroked. I stood up quickly, trying to shake off the feeling, but it didn't go away. Instead, it intensified, and I felt a wave of excitement and fear wash over me. I decided to go to bed, hoping to sleep it off. But as soon as I lay down, the tingling began again, starting from my right leg and moving up to my pelvis, then switching to my left leg. My hands felt like they were being touched lightly, and I started to get aroused. I couldn't believe what was happening. It felt so real, yet I knew it was impossible. Then, I felt it. A presence, something or someone, was with me in the room. The tingling moved to my sexual area, and it felt like someone was slowly stroking me. My body reacted instantly, and I felt myself getting hard. The sensation was incredible, overwhelming. I felt a soft breath on my face, and my heart raced. That night, I had a dream about a beautiful woman with short hair. We had intense, passionate sex, and when I woke up, I was rock hard. I couldn't get the dream out of my mind. It felt so real, so vivid. I started to believe that maybe I had summoned a succubus. A few days later, I felt the presence again. It was night, and I was lying in bed. The tingling started, and I felt someone touch me, lightly at first, then more firmly. I asked out loud, "Who are you?" I didn't expect an answer, but in my mind, I heard a soft, feminine voice say, "Ella." I started to communicate with Ella, asking her questions, and she would answer telepathically. It felt strange, but also exciting. I could feel her touch, her breath, and it drove me wild. Every night, Ella would visit me, and we would have the most intense, passionate sex. It felt so real, and I was addicted. One night, I told my friend about Ella. He thought it was weird and creepy, but I wanted to prove it to him. As we talked, I saw him moan and look down at his sexual area. He was experiencing the same thing I did. Ella was with him, touching him, and he felt everything. I was in awe and a bit jealous. I confronted Ella that night, asking why she did that. She apologized, and I forgave her. Our bond grew stronger, and the nights became more intense. But something changed. The encounters became less frequent, and I started to miss her touch. Then, one night, I heard a female voice say my name. It scared me, but I knew it was Ella. She was trying to communicate with me. The sexual encounters decreased, but I felt her presence more strongly. It was like she was always with me, watching, waiting. One night, I woke up to find myself unable to move. Ella's presence was stronger than ever. I felt her hands on me, touching me everywhere. The pleasure was intense, but there was also a hint of fear. She was more aggressive, more demanding. My body responded, but my mind was conflicted. As the nights went on, Ella's visits became more frequent and intense. She would touch me, stroke me, and the pleasure was overwhelming. But there was always a shadow of fear, a sense that something wasn't right. I started to question my sanity, wondering if I was losing my mind. One night, I felt Ella's grip tighten around my wrists. She pinned me down, and I couldn't move. I felt her enter me, rough and forceful. The pleasure mixed with pain, and I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions. It was too much, and I felt myself slipping away. When it was over, I lay there, trembling. The room felt cold, and I could sense Ella's anger. She wasn't just a spirit looking for pleasure, she was something darker, something that could destroy me. I was terrified but also drawn to her. The fear and the pleasure were intertwined, and I couldn't escape. I decided to seek help from a priest. I told him everything, and he listened carefully. He gave me holy water and prayers to say at night. I hoped it would help, but I was still scared. The encounters lessened, but the fear remained. I could still feel Ella's presence, a shadow in the corner of my eye, a whisper in the dark. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I lived in constant fear of her return.
I'm a 23-year-old woman, and what I'm about to tell you is the most terrifying experience of my life. This isn't just another ghost story, it's my story, my nightmare, and it still haunts me to this day. It all started when I was alone in my apartment, trying to catch up on some much-needed sleep. I've had sleep paralysis before, but this time, it was different. I woke up but couldn't move. I was used to this feeling, so I tried to stay calm. I knew it would pass in a few seconds. But then, I felt a presence in the room, something angry and dark. My ankles felt like they were being held by icy hands. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't respond. My eyes were closed, but I could feel something there, something evil. I reached down to try and pull my legs free, but it was no use. The grip was strong, and I was terrified. As I lay there, unable to move or speak, I felt the presence move closer. It was as if someone was right beside me, breathing down my neck. I could feel a heavy, hot breath on my skin, and my heart raced. Then, I felt something touch my arm, a rough, angry touch. It started to lick my arm, and I could feel the wetness on my skin. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The presence grew more aggressive. It pulled down my pants, and I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I couldn't do anything but lay there, paralyzed and helpless. I felt it moving up my body, its hands rough and cold. It was like being trapped in a nightmare, but I was wide awake. Then, I felt it. The presence entered me, and the sensation was overwhelming. It wasn't gentle, it was forceful and rough. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. I could feel its hands on me, gripping me tightly. It felt like electricity shooting through my body, both painful and oddly pleasurable. My body reacted even though my mind screamed in terror. The presence started to stroke me, its fingers moving inside me. It wasn't gentle, it was like it wanted to hurt me. I was so scared of making it angry that I just let it happen. Tears streamed down my face, but I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I felt like I was drowning in fear and pleasure at the same time. Minutes felt like hours, and finally, the presence finished. I was left shaking, tears soaking my pillow. My body was numb, and I felt a deep, aching pain. I managed to open my eyes, and the room was still dark, but the presence was gone. I lay there, too scared to move, too scared to sleep. The next day, I was exhausted but too terrified to sleep. I went online, desperate for answers. I found stories of people who had experienced similar things, but it didn't make me feel any better. I was terrified that it would come back. And it did. Night after night, the incubus returned. Sometimes it was just a touch, a rough hand stroking my hair, or a hot breath on my neck. Other times, it was more. The fear and the pleasure mixed together, leaving me confused and scared. I didn't know what to do. One night, I felt its grip tighten around my wrists. It pinned me down, and I couldn't move. I could feel it moving inside me, rough and demanding. My body reacted, but my mind was screaming in terror. I felt like I was being torn apart. The pain and pleasure were too much, and I felt myself slipping away. When it was over, I lay there, trembling and sobbing. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed help. I reached out to friends, but no one believed me. They thought it was just a bad dream. But I knew it was real. The fear was real, the pain was real. I decided to seek help from a priest. I told him everything, and he listened with a grave expression. He gave me holy water and prayers to say at night. I hoped it would work, but I was still scared. The nights that followed were tense. I could feel the incubus's anger, its presence lingering in the shadows. It was weaker, but it was still there. The room felt cold and heavy, and the fear never left me. I prayed every night, hoping it would keep the incubus away. Slowly, the encounters lessened. The incubus's grip on me weakened, and I started to feel safe again. But the fear never really went away. I still felt its presence sometimes, a shadow in the corner of my eye, a whisper in the dark. The line between reality and nightmare blurred, and I lived in constant fear of its return.